Thandor of Eternos and the Light That Walks. Summer in Eternos settled like a warm hand on the back of the neck, persistent, heavy, impossible to ignore. The palace barracks had long since surrendered to it. The great hangar bay doors stood fully open, letting sunlight pour across stone floors and half-dismantled machines, the air humming with heat, cicada-like insects, and the metallic tang of oil. Thandor of Eternos wiped his brow with the back of his forearm, leaving a streak of grime across skin already slick with sweat. His palace armor lay discarded nearby, replaced by a sleeveless work tunic that clung stubbornly to muscle. Around him, half a dozen guards labored over an old Wind Raider pulled from service, its hull open, wiring exposed like veins. Whoever designed this intake valve, one of the guards muttered, knuckles scraped raw, clearly hated people. Or guards, another added. Or life in general. Laughter rippled through the group. Someone passed a water skin. Someone else dropped a bolt, cursed, and blamed Skeletor on principle. Thandor leaned into the machine, tightening something that probably didn't need tightening, but it felt productive. If this thing flies again, he said, I'm asking for hazard pay just for looking at it. That was when a woman's voice cut cleanly through the noise. Do any of you happen to have a sonic wrench? The hangar went quiet. Thandor and the others turned as one. She stood a few paces away, hands on her hips, sunlight catching in her hair. She wore mechanic's overalls, the top half folded down and tied neatly around her waist, revealing a short tank top darkened with sweat. Smudges of grease marked her arms, her cheek, her collarbone, dirt beneath her nails, and a streak of oil across her temple like war paint. For a long, foolish heartbeat, no one spoke. Then realization hit like a dropped anvil. The men snapped to attention so fast, one of them nearly knocked his head on the Wind Raider's wing. Your Majesty, came a chorus, voices cracking in unison. Queen Marlena of Eternos, of Earth, raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. Relax, she said, smiling. I asked for a tool, not a ceremony. Thandor swallowed, glanced down, and realized with dawning horror that the very sonic wrench being asked about was in his hand. He stepped forward, bowed deeply, and offered it up. My queen. She took it with a nod. Thank you. I really needed this. Oh, and it is an honor to stand before Eternia's finest, or insert whatever royal talk is needed. She said, clearly uncomfortable with her title, even though she had worn it for years already. The guards shifted, embarrassed, trying very hard not to look at the grease-smudged monarch who somehow managed to look radiant anyway. Thandor cleared his throat. If you require assistance, Your Majesty, we'd be honored to help. She laughed, warm and genuine, the sound echoing lightly off the hangar walls. I appreciate that. Truly. But the Rainbow Explorer is my project. Always has been. She gave the old Wind Raider a fond glance as she turned away. You boys keep this relic flying. I'll keep mine dreaming. They nodded, heads bowed again, even as she waved them off and strode across the hangar, confident, capable, utterly herself. The moment she disappeared around the corner, the hangar exploded with whispers. You stared. One guard hissed at another. I did not. You absolutely did. She's from Earth, someone muttered reverently. That explains everything. Thandor shook his head, smiling despite himself as someone gave him a playful shove. You were the worst, they said. Did you see her face? Before he could respond, footsteps echoed sharply across stone. Captain Tila entered the hangar. The laughter died instantly. She wore her command armor, immaculate despite the heat, auburn hair pulled back tight. Her presence alone straightened spines and silenced nonsense. She crossed the space with purpose, eyes scanning until they settled on Thandor. She looked him up and down, just once, assessing, professional, lingering a fraction longer than strictly necessary. Thandor, she said, your king has need of you. Shower and meet me near the throne doors. 1 hour. Yes, Captain, he replied, already moving. She turned on her heel and left as briskly as she'd arrived. The guards waited until she was gone before leaning in again. I think she likes you, man, one whispered. Thandor groaned, grabbed his discarded armor, and headed for the showers, heart pounding, not from the heat, but from the sense that something was beginning. Something bright. Something walking toward him. The throne room of Eternos was cool in a way the barracks never were. High ceilings, pale stone, and light filtered through crystal panes that broke the sun into soft rainbows across the floor. It smelled faintly of incense and polished metal, a place meant to steady the mind as much as inspire awe. King Thandor sat upon the lion throne, broad-shouldered and regal, his crown catching the light. Beside him, very much not sitting still, was Prince Adam, perched in the queen's chair like a coiled spring, barely containing himself. Standing at the king's right was Braxis of the palace guard. 6'1", dark-skinned, thick-necked, and built like a living rampart, Braxis wore his armor with the ease of someone who had earned every dent in it. His expression was stern by habit, but his eyes missed nothing. The great doors opened. Thandor entered with Captain Tila at his side. He was freshly showered, hair still slightly damp, dressed not in armor, but in a palace guard military uniform, deep blue, gold-trimmed, crisp and formal. It felt strange on him, lighter than steel, more vulnerable somehow. He crossed the floor and dropped to one knee, bowing his head. My king. Prince Adam practically vibrated. Thandor. Adam blurted, leaping to his feet. Thandor sighed, fond and practiced. Adam, he said calmly, please remember where you are. Adam froze, then sheepishly sat back down, hands clenched in his lap. Forgive my son's enthusiasm, Thandor said, his voice warm as he gestured for Thandor to rise. You may stand. As Thandor straightened, he caught Adam staring at him, wide-eyed, grinning, looking as though he were witnessing one of his favorite stories stepping out of a book. Stars in his eyes, plain as day. Thandor continued, the Eternian palace guards are my son's greatest heroes. And lately, your name has been spoken often, especially after the matter of the Silent Fortress. Adam couldn't help himself. Is it true you fought a troll and collapsed a tunnel? And survived? And Adam, Thandor said sharply. The prince snapped his mouth shut and folded his hands, nodding vigorously. Thandor said nothing. He stood still, hands clasped behind his back, eyes forward. Not false humility, just habit. Guards did not speak unless spoken to. Thandor regarded him thoughtfully. My son and I must soon travel to the land of the sun. It will not be a ceremonial visit. We will be bringing palace guards. He glanced toward Braxis. When I asked whom I should bring, your name was the first spoken. Thandor turned slightly surprised. Braxis met his gaze and gave him the faintest grin, the kind only old friends shared. You earned it, the look said. Captain Tila, Thandor added, also speaks highly of you. As king, I would like to see for myself. He paused, leaning forward just slightly. Know this, Thandor of Eternos. This is not a mandatory assignment. You are free to decline. The room grew quiet. Thandor stepped forward and bowed once more, deeper this time. It would be a great honor to accompany you, my king, on such an important mission. Randor smiled, satisfied. Adam beamed like the sun itself. Father, Adam said suddenly. Can I show him? Randor laughed, a deep, booming sound that filled the chamber. I believe my son would very much like to show you his collection. Adam nodded enthusiastically. My action figures. Thandor blinked once, then inclined his head. I would not mind at all, Your Majesty. Adam was already on his feet, waving wildly. Come on, I'll show you the rare ones first. He dashed off before anyone could stop him. Thandor followed, exchanging a brief glance with Braxis, who shook his head, amused, and Tila, who watched them go with the smallest hint of a smile. As the doors closed behind them, the throne room felt lighter somehow. Hope, it seemed, had a way of walking where it pleased. Prince Adam's chambers were nothing like the rest of the palace. The moment the doors swung open, Thandor stopped short. The room was bright, sunlight spilling through tall windows, banners of Eternos hanging alongside colorful posters that depicted guards standing shoulder to shoulder, wind raiders soaring over city walls, caravans moving safely beneath watchful eyes. Shelves lined the walls from floor to ceiling, packed tight with action figures posed in careful formations. Racks of tiny spears, miniature shields, hand-painted standards bearing unit markings Thandor recognized instantly. This one's third gate patrol, Adam said proudly, lifting a figure. They held the line during the Sandrake surge. And this one's my uncle. He retired after the Battle of Blackglass. Thandor stepped closer, eyes widening despite himself. Adam moved from shelf to shelf, naming them all. Guardsmen, brothers and sisters of the Watch. Some who had served long enough to lay down their arms with full honors. Others who had not come home at all. This one fell at the Iron Pass, Adam said quietly, placing the figure back with care. The Horde ambush. 3 wagons. No retreat. Thandor swallowed. The boy spoke the details with reverence, not excitement, not thrill. Respect. As Thandor scanned the shelves, something struck him as odd. He frowned slightly. My prince, there are no masters here. Adam tilted his head. What do you mean? No man-at-arms. No ram man. No Buzzoff or Stratos. Adam shrugged, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. They don't need figures. Thandor blinked. They don't. Adam shook his head. Everyone already knows how strong they are. The real power of Eternos is here. He gestured to the shelves. The people who stand when they don't have to. The ones who don't get songs. Thandor nodded slowly. Aye, that's true. Then his eyes landed on one figure in particular. Captain Tila. The likeness was exceptional. Fully articulated. Hand-painted armor. The detail in the face was uncanny. Thandor arched a brow. Adam froze. Then blushed furiously. I just had that one made, Adam said quickly. Do you like it? Thandor studied it a moment longer, then smiled faintly. The craftsmanship is remarkable. Adam let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Adam reached into a padded case and produced another figure. And this one's new. He handed it over. Thandor stared. It was him. The detail was astonishing, the scar on the shoulder plate, the subtle wear in the greaves, even the way the stance leaned slightly forward, as if bracing against something unseen. Thandor's voice came softer than expected. That's very kind of you. Adam grinned. I got the stance wrong at first, but I fixed it. Thandor hesitated, then asked, almost shyly, and how does one play with them? Adam gasped like he'd been waiting his whole life for the question. I'll teach you. They sat on the floor together, armor and titles forgotten. Adam showed him how to pose the figures, how to mix paints for touch-ups, how to stage scenes. He spoke of old battles, half learned from scrolls and whispered stories, asking Thandor for the truth of them. Thandor corrected him gently, added names, changed endings. Sometimes they just painted in silence. And for the first time in a long while, Thandor felt something warm and simple settle into his chest. Not glory, not duty, just connection. Hope, quiet and unassuming, sitting cross-legged on the floor of a prince's room. Morning at the royal docks came with the smell of salt and tar, gulls crying overhead as ropes creaked and sails were drawn tight. The ship waited at the pier, broad-hulled, sturdy, built for long crossings and rough waters. Thandor arrived with several other palace guards, travel cloaks over their armor. Braxis stood at the gangplank, arms crossed, flanked by guards already on watch. As Thandor approached, Braxis stepped in front of him. Word of advice, he muttered low. Watch what you say today. Thandor frowned. Why is that? The king's in a mood, Braxis said. Prince Adam decided a last-minute trip with a girl he met at a club was more important than a diplomatic mission. Thandor shook his head slowly. Bold. Stupid one, Braxis replied, then stepped aside. Welcome aboard. The ship cast off soon after, Eternos shrinking behind them as the sails caught wind. Once underway, the guards shed their armor without ceremony. Greaves stacked, breastplates stowed, titles forgotten. Thandor found himself hauling lines, scrubbing deck, towing ropes alongside sailors who treated him no differently than anyone else. The sun burned overhead, sweat ran freely, and the ship groaned and lived beneath their feet. By nightfall, the sea stretched black and endless. Thandor leaned against the rail, watching moonlight ripple across the water when footsteps approached. King Randor stood beside him, not in crown or cloak, but in simple sailor's garb, sleeves rolled, hair damp with sweat. He held 2 cups. Thandor straightened and bowed. Oh, stop that, Randor said, handing him a drink. I just worked a 9-hour shift. I've no time to play king. Thandor stared at the cup, then back at him. You worked the ship. Randor chuckled. A ship doesn't care who you are. It only cares if you pull when it needs pulling. They drank in companionable silence. After a moment, Randor sighed. Thank you for spending time with my son. It meant more than you know. Thandor inclined his head. He's a good lad. He is, Randor agreed. Which makes it harder to understand how he can play with toys one day and disappear the next, all while avoiding what's expected of him. He shook his head. I don't want him to become bitter. Or careless. Randor glanced at Thandor. Do you have children? Thandor snorted softly. I'd need a woman for that. Randor laughed, a real, belly-deep laugh, and Thandor joined him. I'd stay, Thandor said eventually, but my next shift starts soon. Randor nodded. Duty calls. The sea answered first. The deck lurched. Wind rose sharply. Pirates, someone shouted from the crow's nest. Randor set his cup down and turned to Thandor. Your shift's canceled. Below decks, armor clanged as Thandor and Braxis strapped in, hands moving fast and sure. Nearby, Randor began fastening armor of his own. Braxis placed a firm hand on the king's arm. My liege. Randor slapped it away. I do not lead from the rear. And on this ship, there is no king. Only a captain, and that is not my title. The impact came hard. The pirate ship slammed into their broadside, with splintering as grappling hooks flew. Pirates poured over the rails, blades flashing. For a moment, the Eternian sailors were pushed back. Then the guards burst from below decks. Steel rang. Spears thrust. Clubs fell. Thandor moved like a storm, blocking, striking, stepping into danger without hesitation. Braxis fought beside him, a wall of muscle and resolve. Randor himself cut down attackers with practiced ferocity, shoulder to shoulder with his men. The pirates faltered. Then the sea screamed. Water exploded upward as a massive sea serpent rose between the ships, scales glistening, eyes ancient and unblinking. Every blade paused. Every voice fell silent. The ocean had claimed the moment. The monster rose from the black water like a living siege engine, fast, slick, and roaring, its many-limbed bulk slamming against the hull of the Eternian ship. Timber screamed. Metal warped. Lanterns burst, spraying fire across the deck as the vessel shuddered under the impact. No, Randor bellowed. Thandor did not hesitate, nor did Braxis. The three of them leapt as one king, warrior, and berserker, hurtling onto the creature's armored back as it clung to the ship. Thandor's blade bit first, carving sparks from chitin-hard hide. Randor drove his spear between ridges of scale, roaring defiance into the storm. Braxis laughed like thunder, hammering the beast with brutal, bone-shaking blows. The monster howled, a sound that made the sea recoil. It thrashed, smashing its bulk against the Eternian ship again and again. Masts cracked. The deck split. Sailors were thrown like dolls. The order was given flee, abandon ship, and the crew poured toward the pirate vessel lashed alongside, scrambling across ropes and planks as the Eternian ship began to die beneath them. The beast felt its victory and raged harder. With a convulsive surge, it hurled itself backward. Thandor was torn from its back, spinning through smoke and rain. Randor vanished in a spray of foam. Braxis struck the railing once hard, then all three were swallowed by the sea. The pirate ship pulled away, its sails catching what little wind remained. Darkness claimed everything. No one could see who lived. No one could see who fell. Below the surface, Thandor sank, armor dragging him down, the roar of battle fading into a dull, distant ache. His lungs burned. His vision dimmed. Then, light. The clouds above the sea parted as if pushed aside by unseen hands. A radiant glow spilled downward, warm and defiant, cutting through the night. From the heavens descended Sun-Man, slow and deliberate, haloed in golden fire. The monster surfaced again, shrieking in fury at the light that burned its eyes. It reared up once, then faltered. Sun-Man's presence was enough. With a final, enraged bellow, the beast recoiled and plunged back into the depths, the sea closing over it like a grave. Thandor drifted, half-conscious, caught between sinking and salvation. Through blurred eyes, he saw Sun-Man hovering above the wreckage, scanning the waters, searching. Please, Thandor prayed silently, the cold pulling him under. Please let him see the king. The light shimmered once more. Then the sea claimed him, and Thandor fell into darkness. Thandor woke to pain, heat, and the taste of salt. He lay sprawled on coarse sand, armor half buried, the surf hissing somewhere behind him. For a heartbeat, he thought he was still drowning. Then he felt the solid earth beneath his palms and sucked in a ragged breath. Beside him, Braxis lay on his side, chest rising and falling like a bellows, one gauntlet hand twitching as if still swinging at the beast. A shadow fell across Thandor's vision. King Randor sat down heavily in the sand next to him, shoulders heaving, beard soaked, armor dented and scorched. He looked exhausted and utterly alive. Thandor jerked upright too fast. The world lurched, sky and sand trading places in a dizzy spiral. "Ah, no," he groaned, clutching his head. Randor snorted and turned his head. "Next time," the king said between breaths, "you are carrying me." Braxis chose that moment to sit bolt upright with a grunt, sand cascading from his armor. He looked around, blinked once, then broke into a broad, crooked grin. "My king," he rumbled, thumping his fist to his chest, "you have my thanks. That sea was trying to keep me." Randor laughed, a deep, unrestrained sound, and promptly flopped backward onto the sand, staring up at the sky. "Fun," he declared. "Absolutely fun." Thandor stared at him as if seeing the man for the first time. Do we have any idea where we are?" Silence. Braxis shrugged. Randor spread his arms wider, sand grinding beneath his pauldrons. "Somewhere that isn't sinking," Randor said. "Good enough for now." Then his expression sharpened, eyes narrowing toward the sky. "Still," he added, "Subeternia will pay when I see Sunman." I saw him. Scared the beast clean back into the deep. Before Thandor could answer, the jungle ahead of them stirred. From the tree line stepped armored men, dark steel and bronze gleaming beneath the leaves, spears leveled, formation tight and disciplined. The air shifted instantly. Randor was on his feet in a heartbeat, sword drawn. Braxis rose beside him, cracking his neck. Thandor pushed himself up, hand finding his weapon by instinct. Then, light. A golden glow descended from above, warm and unmistakable. Sunman floated down between them and the spearmen, hands raised in peace, boots touching the sand as softly as falling ash. The spears lowered. Sunman smiled. He walked straight to Randor, and the king sheathed his blade without hesitation. The two embraced, armor clashing, laughter breaking free like thunder. "Brother," Randor said. "Brother," Sunman answered. Randor pulled back, eyes gleaming. "Why didn't you pull us from the water?" Sunman laughed, bright, booming, utterly unapologetic. "And deprive you of such a glorious workout? Never." Their laughter rolled across the beach. Sunman turned then, scanning the group. "Now," he said, hands on his hips, "where is my rival? Where is the He-Man?" As he spoke, his gaze lingered on Braxis. He looked the massive guard up and down, nodding appreciatively, then pointed. "I like this one." Braxis grinned, teeth flashing. Randor folded his arms, pride unmistakable. "I don't need He-Man. Or the Masters. Not when I have Eternian palace guards like these." Sunman nodded once, slow and approving. Spoken like a true king. He gestured toward the jungle. "Come. My palace is not far. My warriors are there." Randor raised a brow. "Will there be anything to drink?" Sunman's smile widened. "Enough to fill a belly for 2 lifetimes." They began to walk. As the others followed Sunman into the trees, Thandor lingered for a moment, turning back toward the open ocean. The waves rolled on as if nothing had happened, dark and endless. He exhaled slowly. Still shaking his head, Thandor turned and followed his king, still wondering how the king of Eternos could survive the sea, a monster, and near death, and call it fun.